my persuasive speech assignment on drinking and driving. Now, I'd like all of you to think about graduation, something that's pretty common. We all do it at once or twice in our lives. And we kind of hear those stories every now and again in different places at random about, the kids that don't graduate, that empty seat next to you. And, some of those reasons of why that seat's empty next to you is because of drinking and driving. And we hear the horror stories, and we imagine what it must feel like for the families that go through it. Now, what's more horrific to me is the fact that 11,000 people annually die from drinking and driving. And on average, every 52 minutes, somebody dies from an alcohol-related incident, according to Mothers Against Drinking and Driving, MADD. Now, so the CDC says that out of all the things that we do that bring us closer to death that we can prevent is smoking. In my opinion, against drinking and driving, there's no contender to drinking and driving. And this is why today I plan to engage in educating you all about the effects of alcohol on the body and mind, especially when driving, to understand some of the consequences of what happens due to drunk driving, and to know some strategies that you can teach yourself, your loved ones, and your family in order to prevent anything like that happening to you. Now, we all know that alcohol affects the body. It staggers our balance, it slurs our speech, but what does it really do? Let's find out. Now, alcohol is a system suppressant. It slows down the nerve signals, and it causes you to receive information from your senses a lot slower than you normally would, meaning it affects balance, coordination, memory, reaction time. All things that are really, really important, especially when you're driving, to be focused on the road, and being able to see, if there's somebody in the next lane next to you. Now, not only does it affect that, it also affects breathing. It can actually slow down your breath to a very, very low rate, which can be very much life-threatening. Another thing that it does is that it increases dopamine. Now, we all say, it'll be one drink and that's it, but then it comes out of control. Now, biological understanding of that is because it increases alcohol with one drink, it increases dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter inside your brain that gives you feelings of pleasure when you take more of it. So because of that, you feel good, you take one more, and one more, and one more, and it becomes binge drinking in excess. Now, the CDC says that 85% of all DUI incidents are due to this binge drinking more. For men, it's 5 or more drinks, and for women, it's 4 or more drinks. And it could be either hard liquor, depending on how much percentage of alcohol is in it. Also, women and men are different in that sense, just like I showed you by one of the statistics. Women, of course, are affected by alcohol a lot quicker than men. Some of the reasons is because men have a lot more water in their body, about 61%, versus women about 52%, which means the water inside dilutes much quicker. Another very important thing that men differ in is the fact that they have something called dehydrogenase, which is a liver enzyme that metabolizes the alcohol and causes it to be inactive. And now men have much more of that than women do, just naturally. Of course, also something that's unique to women in the fact that we are affected by alcohol a lot quicker is the physical processes that are unique to the female gender, such as hormonal changes before menstruation cause a much faster influence from alcohol, as well as taking estrogen and birth control pills. Now, let's also think about the sociological understanding of drinking and driving, how we see this as a society. Now, there are stereotypes that also play with these gender roles. Women have been said, according to bloodalcohol.com, they tend to abuse alcohol much later in life on a long-term effect, but receive help much quicker, versus men who are quite the opposite. Now, this leads up to the fact that usually, men who drink in excess are seen more smooth, suave, sophisticated, while women are looked down upon, and usually they associate that with a risk of promiscuity in some way for women who drink over us. Also, they talk about the fact that women are much more likely to be dependent on alcohol and abuse alcohol on a long-term basis, causing physical damage such as cirrhosis, which is inflammation of the liver, if they're with men that are also dependent on alcohol. Now, quite the opposite is for men. men that aren't dependent on alcohol, don't abuse it, don't have an addiction to it, will actually leave women who are dependent on alcohol. So all those stereotypes also play a role in how we drink, with who, and how much. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about are the consequences. Now that we've talked about why and where and how it happens, let's talk about if it happens, how can it affect us in the worst of ways. Now, of course, when everybody thinks, drinking and driving, we think of DUIs, which stands for driving under the influence. Now, there are variable degrees in different fines, penalties, and types of DUI that you could actually receive. Now, Florida, here where we live, has one of the strictest laws. It's one of the strictest DUI laws ever in any of the other states, that in California. According to the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Department, there are variable degrees, like I said before. For a first conviction, it could be anywhere from a $500 to a $1,000 fine. It could be community service hours of 50 hours approximately, DUI school required, a probation no more than 1 year, or depending if it was a serious hazardous driving or accident, it could be imprisonment up to 6 months. Now, for a blood alcohol level, BAL, of 0.15 or having a minor in the car, it could be $2,000 to $4,000 that you'd have to pay, with prison time being more than 9 months or no more than 12 months. And of course, we talk about the DUIs that have much more serious consequences than just getting stopped by a cop. DUIs that cause deaths, serious bodily injury, or cause manslaughter also have a fine up to $10,000, have imprisonment up to 15 years, and are considered a first-degree felony. Leaving the scene of an accident such as that, or not rendering aid if you were the one that caused it as the offender, can warrant 30 years of imprisonment and be considered a second-degree felony, which can also cause revocation of your license, up to 5 to 10 years. Now, there's also a difference in the sense of age limit. Of course, we know that the legal drinking age here in the United States is 21 years. Now, people under 21 that are licensed to drive have very also harsh laws that are engaged on them. Florida uses something called the zero tolerance law, which means that anybody under 21 can not have anything of a blood alcohol level higher than 0.02, which is equal to 1 drink, which effectively means nobody under 21 can drink. And the offense for breaking that is automatic 6-month suspension from driving, which we know for teenagers is incredibly hard to do. For people over 21, of course, we all know that the legal limit is 0.08. And of course, I told you already about the offenses and DUIs penalties that occur. And something like a DUI can stay on your record for 75 years, affecting, whether or not if you ever have a custody case or anything like that, that can affect it. If they'll give you custody of your child, or when background screenings are done for jobs. Now that we've talked about the consequences, let's talk about some strategies to prevent them from ever happening. Now, strategies are something that, in my field of nursing, we use to prevent things from happening, which are very important. Now, one of the biggest strategies that they always talk about everywhere is having a designated driver. Now, also according to Mothers Against Drunk Driving, it's very important that you plan ahead to any events that you're going to any place. If you're over 21, if you're going out with your friends, that you have a designated driver. That you have somebody that you say, hey, we're going to do what we're going to do, but please don't drink, please take us home, please keep us safe, and have that person be a trustworthy person that you can actually trust with life, basically. If you ever see a friend, for example, that you see is visibly inebriated in some way and they're trying to get into their car to drive, take their keys and call them a cab. Very important strategy to preventing, your friend from losing their life. And for under 21 people who drive, if you're a parent, make sure that you create a very open environment in talking with your children about something like this. Don't make an environment where you or show them that you're just going to judge them and you're going to, put harsh punishments on them and things like that, which cause them from coming to talk to you, maybe about peer pressure that they're having, with friends that pressure them to drink at parties or anything like that, and be engaged in your child's life to see what kind of friends they have, what kind of groups they interact with and things like that. And also, if the event comes that they do, are drunk at a party and they're trying to call you and whatnot, You know, try to let them know that if anything happens, whether they're under 21, over 21, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. If you're there for them and you are their parent, that you tell them that, hey, you know, if you're not okay and you don't feel safe and you know you're not okay to drive, call me. Anytime, anywhere, no questions. And that's a very important thing to do. Now, this is where I'd like to, just in retrospect, wrap everything up and hope that I can implore you to understand how important this topic this is. Not just to me, but to everybody. And I hope you now understand what effect alcohol has on the body and mind, especially while driving, how dangerous that can be when putting those two things together. You know, the consequences, of course, of the law and the ultimate consequence of not being able to see your loved ones again. And of course, some strategies just to know, to be an advocate for you and your loved ones, to spread the word, you know, to make sure that tragedies don't happen, just to prevent them from occurring. Because at the end of the day, you know, driving is a privilege. It's not a right, but life is a right. Everybody has a right to keep living. So please don't treat it like a privilege. Thank you.